last month, and even though I've tried to forget about it, I can't. I haven't even told that many people because it still freaks me out just thinking about it. But maybe writing it out will help me get over it. Plus, I feel like I need to warn people in case this ever happens to anyone else. So I went out with my friends Lily and Emma. We are all in our early 20s and we love checking out new places to party. That's basically our thing, finding clubs or bars we haven't been to yet. Anyway, Emma heard about this underground nightclub that had just opened up a few blocks off city center. Supposedly it was super exclusive and invite only, but she managed to get us on the list through a friend of a friend. When we got there, it was already kinda sketchy. The club was in the back alley, no signs, no obvious entrance. Just this narrow, graffiti-covered door with a small metal plaque that had the club's name on it. We had to knock, and some guy opened up a little slit in the door and checked our names off a list. He barely even looked at us before he let us in, which felt weird, like they'd let just anyone in as long as they were girls. The inside was super dim, with flashing red and blue lights, giving everything a kind of hazy, dark vibe. The music was intense, and there was this strange, almost chemical smell that I couldn't quite place. It was like sweat, booze, and something else. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it didn't feel right. But whatever, we were there to have fun, right? So we grabbed the drinks and found a spot near the dance floor. The place was packed, but after a few minutes I noticed that the crowd seemed unbalanced. There were a lot more men than women, like way more. Lily noticed it too and made a joke about how the ratio was off. We laughed it off, but I couldn't shake the weird feeling. After a while, Emma suggested we check out the rest of the place. It wasn't that big, just the main dance floor, a bar and a couple of lounge areas off to the sides. There was a hallway near the back that led to the bathrooms and what looked like a few VIP rooms. I'd already had a few drinks by then, so I told the girls I was going to the bathroom and that I'd meet them back at the bar. The hallway to the bathrooms was dark and narrow, and I actually had to feel my way along the wall because it was hard to see. The bathrooms were all the way at the end, and just before I got there, I noticed the door on my left that was slightly open. There was this faint light coming from inside, and I couldn't hear voices. Two men talking low, almost like they didn't want anyone to hear. I don't know why, but something made me stop. I just had this gut feeling, so I leaned in a little, just trying to hear what they were saying. I figured maybe they were just bouncers or club staff talking about work stuff or whatever. But then I started picking up on words here and there, things like shipment and assets. I didn't understand at first, but as they kept talking, it started to click. They were talking about people. Specifically women. My stomach dropped when I heard one of them say something about merchandise and how they'd pick a few good ones from recent parties. I almost couldn't believe what I was hearing. It sounded like something straight out of a movie. Human trafficking. I know I should have just left right then, but I felt frozen, like my brain couldn't catch up to what I was hearing. Then, one of the guys mentioned that they'd be marking a few of the girls tonight, and that's when I knew I had to get out. I turned to leave, but right as I did, the door creaked and I felt someone's eyes on me. I caught a quick glimpse of a tall guy in a dark suit standing in the doorway, staring right at me. I didn't wait to see what he'd do. I bolted down the hallway, past the bathrooms and headed straight back to the bar where I'd last seen Lily and Emma. I was shaking so hard I could barely keep my hands steady. I told them we had to leave right now. I tried to tell them what I'd heard, but it all came out jumbled. Emma looked at me like I was nuts, but something in my face must have convinced them because they finally agreed to go. As we started making our way to the exit, I noticed a couple of men watching us from the corner of the room. They looked familiar, like maybe they'd been at the bar earlier, just hanging around and not really doing much. I tried to keep my head down, and thankfully we made it out without anyone stopping us. But as soon as we stepped out onto the street, I felt it, that feeling that someone was watching us. I glanced over my shoulder and sure enough, there was a man standing in the alleyway near the club entrance. He didn't move. He was just standing there, staring at us. I nudged my friends and we started walking faster. I didn't want to freak them out even more, but I was pretty sure he was following us. We were about 5 blocks from the club, but I didn't feel safe until we were in the busy part of town. Even then, I kept looking over my shoulder, and every now and then I'd see the guy, always keeping a bit of a distance but never letting us out of his sight. It was like he was just waiting for us to slip up or go somewhere quieter. Finally, I spotted an alley with some dumpsters and a fire escape. I told Emma and Lily to follow me and ducked into the alley. We crouched behind one of the dumpsters and I held my breath, listening. After a few seconds, I heard footsteps coming closer, then a pause. I don't know how long we waited there, but eventually the footsteps started up again and faded away. We stayed there for a few minutes just to be sure, and then we finally made our way back out onto the street. None of us talked much on the way home. I think we were all too freaked out. To this day, I have no idea what would have happened if I hadn't overheard that conversation, but I'm glad we got out when we did. I reported the club to the police, but they couldn't do much since I didn't have any solid evidence. They just told me to be careful and let them know if I saw anything else suspicious. The whole thing still haunts me though. I can't stop thinking about the girls who might not have been so lucky. I just hope whoever runs that place gets shut down for good before they hurt anyone else.